I've kind of planned for like 40 minutes of running through some things. I'm going to kind of go really quickly through the basics because this is an advanced session, and then jump into some of the tactics that we've used at SEO Moz, some things that we're testing now, some things that we're trying with partners, and hopefully leave you guys with some things that you haven't tried. And then I've left about 15 or 20 minutes for questions because every time I talk about retargeting, the questions are always pretty specific to your site, the goals around your site, the pages that you're building. So, yeah. All right, so let's jump right in. I'm Joanna Ward. I'm the Director of Customer Acquisition and Retention over at SEO Moz. Who's heard of SEO Moz? Nice. Group hug. Yes. Good. People have heard of it, so I don't have to go into this field because I'm not very good at this field. But I do paid search mostly over there. I do PPC. I do the affiliate management for our pretty small program. Retargeting, display, Facebook, Twitter advertising. So I get to dabble in a lot of new things. And retargeting I've been doing for about a year and a half now at SEO Moz, and it's been really fun because it's been around for forever, but the actual channel itself has had kind of a surge of excitement around it. A lot of people have been able to apply it in different ways recently, and there's just a lot more resources and a lot better platforms. So, all right, I do think it's kind of worth it to kind of go back and be like, why is there a big surge around it? Like, why all of a sudden are people so hot about retargeting? Why is it the thing that you need to hire someone to do? And I really think it comes down to this concept, things have really changed. And we know this because our mornings are crazy, right? Like, we come in, we go from site to site to site to site. 10 minutes, we've pretty much wandered the web in a very robust, dynamic fashion. And it means that we're consuming data in a very different way. Whereas display advertising is still a beautiful channel, it does somewhat fall short of a lot of the ways that people are consuming data these days. So I really think that display advertisers have to face some pretty aggressive truths. The first one is that we're really frantically consuming a lot of information, and we know this, right? We see something, we want to share it, we send it to someone, they send something to us, we're reviewing something, we get an email, we're interrupted by IM, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, we're not really getting much further than the surface consumption. So whereas it's a brand impression or a flash, or maybe something that resonates because it's unique, it's not something that we actually digest. It's not something where before someone's sending you a link, you're like, I need to give this time because rarely does someone send me something I need to look at. Or this really caught my eye, rarely does something catch my eye. The industry's matured and we're better marketers, so because of it, we have to work harder. I really think that means that the expectations for your display channels have changed as well. And that's where I think retargeting really has come in. So in display advertising of yesteryear, and I'm sorry if it's a little weirdly formatted, I had this in Keynote and I did the transition to PowerPoint, so we'll see how that goes. But I really think we were kind of tasked with something. I'd get a budget, I had to generate some traffic, and I had to come up with some solid brand awareness. And I would, get in trouble if I didn't. We'd run some sort of survey, something qualitative, something quantitative, whatever you want to do. I got a score. And in 6 months, 9 months, 12-month time, I had to improve that score of brand awareness. That was my only job. And I did it effectively. And then you kind of got, immature. We had to continue to kind of improve the quality of that traffic. All of a sudden, it wasn't just about how much traffic can I drive to a site, but they actually need to do things. Bounce rates need to go down, time on site needs to go up. All of those kind of engagement metrics needed to improve. And the sculpting of the brand awareness. We don't just want them to know who we are. We want them to associate certain words with it. We want to be coming up with different adjectives versus our competitors when we're tasked with surveys. So that alone was kind of a mental shift a couple years ago. And then conversions, right? Luckily, as every kind of industry does, it kind of takes a point where you're like, now we need to understand what's the data story around this channel. What are the conversions? What are the secondary conversions? How can we improve them? How can we get each conversion to be worth more? All of these other things are thrown out on the table. And what I really think is different, and this has kind of happened in this last year, and I think this is all about this, well actually the last year and a half, is really around retention. When, your economy takes, swan dive, you really need to look and say, how are we going to pull back and still be effective? And that's all around retention. We need to keep the people we have longer. It costs less to keep them than it is to go get someone new. We all know that stat. And that's where I believe display advertising bars have been raised. And because of that, I think retargeting has caught a new popularity. We have to set expectations that are met at this point in the funnel. All of a sudden, I'm tasked with bringing in someone from a paid channel that lasts just as long as an organically found visit. That's unusual, right? I mean, normally we kind of get a little bit of a threshold there, a barrier. For us at SEO Moz, lifetime value might be 8 months to 10 months for someone who finds us organically through the blog. My paid channels get to be a little bit more around 5 or 6 months. All of a sudden, no. I need to be expected to kind of get 8 to 9 months because I have better tools to help me shape that story. So I think this is all part of it, but I think it's worth kind of mentioning because a lot of us have to sell retargeting in-house, and these are kind of the ways that I approach it. So what is retargeting? How many people are doing it now? That's pretty sweet. Okay, so how many people have never really heard retargeting ever? Nice. You, sir. This slide is trivial. Okay, so the concept of retargeting at its most basic is pretty simple. Someone comes to your site, they find you, you cookie them, they're put into an audience pool. There's a lot of awesome ways to get mature, and we'll talk about those later, and very kind of advanced with it. But at its most basic, you just cookie them, put them into an audience. The audience is then built, and they go wander the web, go look at the sites they always do, go check out the blogs and stuff that they love. And as the big networks out there, the Google network, network, all those different things, are out there serving, the person sees your ads everywhere they go. Literally everywhere they go, from site to site to site. You begin to online stalk them, hopefully in a more advanced manner. And the goal is in 3 months, or 2 months, or sometimes even 30 days, the person comes back to your site, deeper along in the funnel, because you've had a brand impression with them, you told them a story, you made them feel more comfortable, the trust signals were there, and by the time they get back to you, excuse me, by the time they get back to you, they're closer to a conversion. So at its most basic, really simple. And I think there's some really good data to suggest that this is something to go looking at. So we all know the typical stat where only 10% of the people that even come to our site do anything we want them to. And 90% of people kind of bounce or don't really get anywhere near the part of the site they need to find our products or our services. So retargeting is all about that 90%. Totally different philosophy change. And previous to this, a lot of us marketers spend our time on the 10%, so it's quite different. Retargeted consumers also are 70% more likely to convert than someone who just saw regular ads. So display advertising is good, but because they've had that first brand impression, they're 70% more likely to convert. That's how strong just having seen your colors or your logo before can be. And the third one I think is the most exciting, and they spend on average 50% more. So you're not just getting them back more often, you're not just getting them to convert more, but they're going to throw more money at you. And that's, again, all because they feel more familiar, they've seen you before, they might not even remember where they saw you or how long ago it was, but they feel more confident spending with your site. So those are some really good stats to think and take back to your bosses or yourself. All right, so hopefully I have some attention with the data. I'm going to jump into some tactics, some things we've tried. I think the first one is all about the philosophy of it. And I can't stress it enough because this is the most challenging thing I think for a lot of people when you have a limited budget. And you're sitting there like, okay, display is expensive enough. I got my PPC budgets, they're crazy expensive. I'm dabbling in Twitter advertising, we all know those buy-ins. Like these are high thresholds. How am I going to start another channel? Why am I going to start a whole other channel? Because there's creatives, landing pages, hires, data analysts, whatever you need to do for how mature you want to be with it. And I think you have to go after this 90%, this concept. Whereas before, we were really kind of optimizing for an action. Like I spent my whole day on my funnel, right? Tweaking and testing my billing page, trying to make it beautiful. This is about optimizing for a person. So I've sat in a couple sessions here, and I think this concept of personalization, this concept that we now have so much data about the people that are checking out our sites, that is just so applicable to retargeting. It's just crazy. Because you're really saying to yourself, I know this person left, but I know this person saw this site, this page, this page, this page. I know that they've seen me, X number of times in 30 days. I know where they are in our relationship, and I'm going to use that for me, for them, maybe against them, whatever you want to say. And I'm optimizing for them and their story with us. So it's really saying to whoever internally, I want to try this. I'm going to test out a new channel, so you need to throw me some money. Because you do need some solid budgets to get started in retargeting. So that's the first one. It's really trying to have that philosophical change. 9 is, I think, the most fun and most exciting for advertisers. You really get to embrace what's unique about your brand. Whereas with display advertising, you are tasked with so much in that one look, right? It's your logo, it's your byline, it's the deal, it's the product, maybe it's colors or an adjective. You have to get it all in there because you don't know when they're going to see it again. You don't know how many other people are in rotation with you. You don't know when you're going to hit your impression threshold. With retargeting, you're going to see them so many times. They're going to see you, rather, so many times in such a short amount of time that you can do less with the ad and get more from it. So what do I mean by that? I mean things like this. Capturing visually on what makes your brand memorable. Tiffany's does a ton of retargeting. My friend told me. I don't know. It's not that I'm visiting the Tiffany's that I'm looking at jewelry. Maybe I am. But the point is, it's really about capturing what's special about your story and throwing it in their face. This is horrible. This is so boring, my face hurts. This is really bad retargeting. And I love tag watches. They're sexy watches. Like, they're manly, beautiful watches. And these are horrible ads. This captures me. This says to me, I want to go walk with those people. I don't know, they look in love, like I want to go there. And I think with retargeting, you can do that. You can take chances with your brand. If you have a crazy CEO, and he's kind of known for being crazy, if you have a mascot that's nuts and you want him to do something bizarre, if you just have a color that's really special to you, like that people kind of resonate with it, you know, like with Target, you could literally just do the bullseye. Like you don't need to, you're not held to the same standard of messaging that you are with display advertising, because you get more chances to leave an impression. So that's the first thing, is you have to be creative with your retargeting. I would go as far as to say that if you don't, if you reuse your display advertising creatives, you will fail for retargeting buys. All right, test sequence retargeting. Poor Ben, it's going to be a hot mess. I'm sorry, guys. Sequence retargeting is really the special sauce of retargeting. So in this concept of display, you don't know when they're going to see you, and you don't know where they are in how long it's been since they visited, or any of these sorts of qualifiers. But with retargeting, you do. You have more of a control over what they see first, what they see second, what they see third. You can actually build audiences and say, 30 days after visiting our site, I want them to see this set of ads. I want them to be introduced to us. Just our, happy little mascot and our logo. I'm not going to get them to do anything. And then you say, all right, we're in the 30 to 60 day window, right? And you can say, I want them to see this, which is all about adjectives for us. It's all about helping them understand that SEO Moz is powerful, robust, we're rated #1, we've got this huge community. All those beautiful trust signals that you stuff your landing pages with. And then that 60 to 90 day window is really where you can kind of come in and say, all right, we've been chatting a little while, I feel good about it, you feel good about it, let's get some conversions down. You throw free trials at them, you throw promos at them, you throw things that you might not even be offering anywhere else on the web. And you can do this because it's such a sequenced audience. You know how big the audience is. You can make risk analysis based on this. I'm going to offer this promo to this audience that only has 1,800 people. You know what your potential margins are. These are really powerful things for people that are buying in media buys. So I think sequence retargeting is where most retargeting marketers kind of fall short, because it takes a lot of creatives and a lot of design time. And design is hard to come by in a lot of companies. I know it is for us. I try to kind of go in every quarter and say, I think I'm going to test this, this, and this. If you could just kind of build them all out. It is kind of good to have them build them all out at the same time so they have that cohesive story. But I think other than that, you really need the landing pages to be beautiful. I mean, you need to be checking the data a lot. And a lot of retargeters just don't have the time. They say, oh, I'm just going to put it on autopilot. And if you're not doing this sort of stuff, you're not really capitalizing what makes retargeting so unique. So sequence retargeting is really special. Number 7, expecting more from the data. I kind of just touched on this. I think this is more of a pet peeve, and I felt like throwing it in here. When I talk to people, or people bring me in to look at what they're doing in retargeting, and I'm like, sure, send me a report that your marketer is kind of running, and they send you something, and you're like, what are they reporting on? They have so much better data. The products out there, the platforms that you're using, or if you're using remarketing through Google AdWords, you have more data than you used to have with display advertising. You have more visibility. It's really hard to see this, but this is actually, so we use AdRoll, and this is just a mass amount of data by creative. I can go over here, I can hit sites, and I can actually look at the exact sites that I'm running on. I can look at the conversions, the impressions, the CPC, I can do CPA, I can do everything out every single day, real-time data. And it gets reported to me. I have somebody who works underneath me, I expect him to send that to me daily. You really shouldn't be getting these kind of monthly how did our display by report go. You really shouldn't be getting we're on track to get the number of conversions we hoped. We feel as though the CPA is in the appropriate place, or we feel as though the CPM was cost effective. Those aren't the sort of reports you should get with retargeting. I expect my associates to kind of look at it more like bid management for PPC. Go in daily, negative out sites. I want them to go in daily, make sure that our impressions are where they need to be, that we're getting the vast coverage we expect. I just have raised the bar, and I think that whether you're managing someone who's doing it or whether you're managing it, you really need to be doing that as well. I kind of want to throw out some numbers in case, for those that are just getting started, there's a little bit of a different kind of standard impressions, there's a pretty safe kind of, if you talk to different people, it kind of varies, but I feel comfortable saying 15 to 20 impressions per month per person in your audience. It's a lot of impressions when you think about it, right? That they see you 15 to 20 times in 30 days. And sometimes you front load it, and sometimes you back load it, depending on your goals for the campaign. But that's the sweet spot that we found. Too much, you are going to get banner fatigue very, very quickly. And you are going to get some backlash, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the spot that I would say to shoot for. In click-through rates, B2B is a little lower than you would think. It's actually only 0.15 to 0.2 that we've seen. But, compared to some other display buys, it's solid. B2C is actually 0.3 to 1.0, which is, what we're more comfortable with, around the 1.0 spot. So you should be shooting for those click-through rates. There are levers to pull, whether it be kind of negativing out sites or just getting in a new set of campaign banners. Those sorts of things can help you get those click-through rates up. So conversions, a whole different ballgame. For those of you that are doing it, you kind of know. For those that aren't, there's 2 different conversions for retargeting. I mean, it's not a completely different ballgame, it's just recorded better, and that's view-through and click-through. So view-through being they've seen your ad, they then go off, do something else, but eventually convert. Click-through being they click on the ad and convert right there. The ratio we're seeing is about 1 to 10. So for every click-through I get about 10 view-throughs. What I love about that box, though, what I absolutely adore about this concept of view-through conversion, is making the case that we are becoming a more sophisticated marketing team around attribution. And we all know that attribution is a challenging area. It's a gray area. This year is going to be really excellent. I know a lot of companies are working on some really awesome attribution modeling. They're going to come out with some weighted applications for it. I'm really excited to see where it can go. But right now, making the argument that my display impressions are really helping out when we see like email conversions or when we see even kind of partnerships or that sort of thing. If they come through our biz dev page where they want to hear more and then they meet with us and it turns into this really big thing, I can say actually no. I mean that person saw a branding ad and they were in our retargeting audience. This person then clicked through. Like this is all part of that. So I think it helps me make the case. It's amazing to see the number of users at the end of the month. It's pretty impressive. CPC and CPM, I just put it up there because you can report on both these days, whatever you feel more comfortable with. I always ask for both because I never know who I'm going to have to report to. I never know which one I have to throw into a deck, whether it be for investors or potential partners. So everything's becoming more sophisticated in the dashboards. And you shouldn't go with anyone who's doing retargeting if they don't have a sophisticated dashboard. I think this last year was the year that a lot of the companies took a step back and said, we need to start making better dashboards. We need to start showing more data. We're going to stop doing as much on the back end, which was awesome because they got it done for us, and we'd be like, we want to be able to do this, and they're like, we'll take care of it, and all of a sudden you kind of hope that they're doing it, and they kind of spit out this report, and I was like, I really want to be able to pull that report myself. I really want to be able to export, get some pivot table crazy, and just see what I can do, and they've done that. They've built it all in. So if you're working with a network or an agency or someone who has a product that isn't good, I take a step back and really ask yourself if they're a long-term partner you want to be with. All right, raising the bar on promotions. I think promotions are kind of, have a negative connotation. Let's be real. Everyone hates the banner ad that's like 50% off for you today. I think you can do more in retargeting with promotions simply because, again, you know the size of the audience you're selling to, so you can get really aggressive. You know your margins. We offer, sometimes, we just offer things that we know we might not even break even on because we know exactly the number of people that are going to see this. We can control it, auto-time it to rotate out. You just have so much more control. Some of the things you might want to consider when you're looking at banners are things like action tag, fluffing feathers. Again, when you look at Best Buy, this is right here, you can see that Best Buy, they're not really trying to get you to do much here. They just want to keep reminding you of their value adds. It's important that they know that you have free same-day pickup. They know that they want to test out as a trigger, and they're using it in their banner ads here. They're not necessarily trying to get you to actually buy something from Best Buy. They're not showing you a product. It's really about resonating on those value adds. Time-sensitive promos, obviously, they work really well in retargeting, as does the personalized, where you put the big, this is your. If you catch them within 15 days of visiting your site and you have this is your deal, this is your product, and you show them the product from the page that they visited, they will click, they will buy, you will get a raise. It's as simple as it is. I've seen it time and time again. You can control these sorts of things. So you need to sequence these promotions effectively. You can test your promotions before you open them to a grander audience. Retargeting has a lot of different options around promotions and coupons, so this is a great testing vehicle for it. All right, so user retargeting is a cheap testing vehicle. We all, for paid search marketers, we know what it costs to test things. It's really unfortunate. I think testing, we all know, gets turned to the side. I do a lot of panels on CRO, and we probably are running maybe a test or 2 tests at a time at SMOS. It's annoying, but you run out of resources. I think retargeting is a great testing vehicle because it's pretty cost effective, and very often it's just a matter of getting some new banners, and you can outsource a lot of testing banners because they don't always have to be as consistent with your brand, so you don't get the designer being like, they do not look like my original vision. They don't need to look like their original vision. You're testing crazy things. So I put up just a list here, and you guys will all get this, of all the different ways that we really try to use retargeting to test, from things like trust signals. Should we say #1 rated? Should I say voted #1? I mean, those small caveats when we're trying to put together some sort of press kit for a big push is huge. You shouldn't just be going on your gut with those when you have something like this that you can swap out and show to an audience of 100,000 people and have data in 3 days, depending on how big your audiences are. Adjectives, bylines, new colors. If you're considering a rebrand, this is your best avenue. I know for years I've been testing with PPC ad copy for a lot of things, testing bylines or testing product names. It's expensive. That's an expensive testing vehicle. I might take even, just a couple grand to do it for a week to be like, I think we might want to go with this product name. It's really not as valid as doing something like this where you can show a logo, because it's not like you're leaking the logo. It's not like you're necessarily making a full rebrand stance, but you're getting a reaction. Does it cause a click-through? When that person clicks through, how long do they stay? How deep do they go? How late is their visit when they come back? Google Analytics gives you all that beautiful stuff. And this is really just the vehicle to get you that original data. So I think that's a really exciting place for retargeting to be. And I think we'll see that more and more this year. I think we'll see a lot of the platforms build it in, which is exciting. Like, rotate this out. I want a 3-day test, and I want to rotate this against this against this. Give me the winner. Very unbalanced for retargeting. I think we'll see a lot of that. Getting social, because you can't do a presentation without talking about social these days. But it is really good. It's really good for you. I would much rather engage with someone who's already seen me than a stranger. I don't know if you guys are testing social and display buys, but we've been doing a little bit, just kind of being like us here or follow us here, kind of see what we can do to build our audience. Again, very expensive. The cool thing about doing it with this is the audience already knows you. They've already seen you. They're that much more likely to engage in a conversation with you. A pro tip that we really found is that if you are going to do this, you really need to alter the icons. You can't have the usual ones because people are completely banner fatigued to those. I'd actually go as far as to say you should really never be using the true icons in pretty much anything these days. But you see some people doing some really creative things. So, like Arrowhead Water, for a coupon at Facebook, but it's not really about the water. You just see the word coupon, you see Facebook, and it's a pretty ad. So those sorts of things, think very out of the box. Don't go looking for conversions necessarily, but you do want people to know that you're spending money on building a community. I think that social's matured to a place where everyone wants to meet with other brands on different social networks, so it's a great place to test it. We've just been doing it a little bit, and we've kind of been doing it with like our robot holding a sign, and we've seen some really good traction. More so with Facebook than we have on Twitter, but we kind of have a bigger audience on Twitter already, so I kind of worry about kind of saturation with those audiences, and you need to think about that. I don't know what brands you're doing this for, but if you really are a huge brand or if you've got a portfolio of huge brands, you might not want to go down this avenue because you may have already saturated that audience. So something to think about there, but definitely works for testing. All right, combo brand plays. This is really exciting for me. I think one of the things that really bothers me when I've always done banner buys in the past is trying to get everything into that one box and saying that I feel like I did it effectively, because when you get a conversion, you're like, what made them click? What part of my banner made them click? And then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm going to test that banner, but I'm going to take out that element. I'm going to swap it with this color. I'm going to swap it with that word. And that's just like really frustrating. It's actually not very scientific either, and it takes a lot of design resources. So I think Zappos has done some of the best retargeting banners. They're just so good at it. They have a ton of data. They're very mature in-house. So they're using a lot of that for me. And I spend a lot of money on shoes, so I'm very aware of their brands, of their retargeting efforts. But their subliminal messaging is really effective. If you see, again, they've kind of, I mean, they've left their logo, but they've really kind of focused on the things that they know they are best at, that they need to keep reminding me they're best at. I mean, we all know that it's their return policy. We all know that it's 24/7 customer service. And they want to make sure that I do not forget them. Because I went and I saw that pair of shoes that I wanted. And then I was like, I'm in the discovery phase. I'm going to go see where else I can get red heels. And I go looking, and they're just bombarding me. Okay, you can go somewhere else, but do you know that you and I both know they do not have that return policy? You and I both know they do not have that customer service. And it's like, you win, take my money, and buy your shoes. And the other thing they're doing really well is putting in the brands of the shoes, right? Like, they know who I've looked at, so they're actually going, they're able to say to their partners, we're showing you and we're getting you this many impressions in our retargeting audience. Like, they can go to Nine West and say, we want better deals, we want first pick of this shoe when it goes on sale this season. You know, we want the best, we want things that other sites don't have because we're getting you second-handed kind of branding. So I think it's really impressive what they're doing. And you can use this in biz dev. You can go to your biz dev guy or your sales team and be like, who do we need to flex some feathers for? Who do you want to start seeing us, like, if someone's courting you and investing? You can start kind of dropping in different words or different plays because you know they're going to see you once they're in that cookie pool. So you can get creative with it. I think there's some fun stuff to be done around the subliminal messaging piece. Drop that cookie like it's hot. This one is actually kind of interesting. Last year, I spent most of my time telling people to stop focusing on site retargeting and really think outside the box. And then Google smacked me in the face with the not provided data, and now we're left kind of saying, where is off-site retargeting going to go? So for those that aren't familiar, on-site retargeting is everything I've been talking about. Come to your site, get cookie, they're in an audience. Off-site is everything else. So it's just, some of the networks out there, some of the companies out there are working with networks so that if someone goes in and searches a term, they're then put into a pool, an audience, and I can buy into that audience. So they didn't even have to visit my site, but I could target by keyword. So unlike display, where normally you're thrown into a category, where it's like, I want to be shown software and tech sites. Like, I probably shouldn't be in rotation with things like TechCrunch and Mashable. We probably don't have the same audience, but if I do a traditional display buy, those are the same categories I'm put in. So it's not really as personalized as we've all wanted it to be. Off-site search retargeting is what it's called, was just that. I mean, I really had high hopes for it. However, they're not provided for any, I mean, we all have our theories as to why they did it. There's a bunch of reasons. This was definitely one of them. They saw this growing. They saw the power going to these companies. And without, with the not provided there, it's going to be very challenging for them to do very effective search retargeting algorithms. So with that off the table, there's still things you can do off-site. One of the things we just started doing is partner retargeting. So pretty, where you exchange a pixel with one of your partners. So you say to someone you're working really closely with, I'll put my pixel on your site, you put yours on mine, and all of a sudden you're building two audiences and you start cross-pollinating the ads. That's really beautiful stuff. You can also do it with bloggers, influential bloggers, whether that's a paid relationship or not. As long as you cover your butts in the terms of service and kind of keep reminding people that they may be cookied and they may be marketed to in the future based on that cookie, you're kind of legally covered. So consider those sorts of things as maybe ads you can throw on the table to partnerships you're considering or those sorts of things. I think the other piece that's also exciting is really dropping cookies in emails. I think if there is black hat retargeting, this might be going there. I do not endorse black hat retargeting. I don't think it's real. But if you were to somehow come across an email list that was very large, you could put your cookie in there, and all of a sudden that anyone that opened that email could be put into that audience. So those sorts of things are out there. You should know they're out there. And I think it can be very effective. I know that we have something called the Moss Top 10 where we kind of digest a lot of things that are happening in online marketing. There are ways to sign up for the Moss Top 10 without coming to our site. I want to make sure that the people that are reading the Moss Top 10 do get into my audiences. So we're using that pull, and we're pulling it in, and we're targeting them with campaigns. And campaigns that are specifically driven for people that have come through the Moss Top 10 channel. So exciting stuff there. And things to consider. We'll see where this pans out this year. We'll see where it goes. I don't know if this is going to force those products to get more innovative with how they offer search retargeting, if there's a way to do it, or if it just kind of fizzles out and we have to get more creative. I'm not sure, but we'll see. All right, number one, thinking outside the box. So this is the biggest piece, and this is the part that you kind of always say with any channel, but I really think with retargeting, if you want to grow this into like a huge channel, if you want to build a team around retargeting, and I mean you absolutely can really the mature companies are, you need to ask yourself, what is unique about your site? What is the section of your site that none of your competitors have? What is the page on your site that when people visit, they convert? And I don't mean your plans and pricing. I don't mean your tour or your product tour. If you're an e-commerce site and there's this one product section that's just, you know that when someone buys from this section, they usually almost always are a repeat visitor, that's the section you retarget. That's the audience you build. Don't put it across your whole site. This is not about breadth. This is about fine-tuning, optimizing for a certain person that you know is your most lucrative lead. And that's what retargeting is all about. And I think that it's also this quirkiness, this is Lacoste up here, this penguin. You can hardly even read the name Lacoste on that hat. But, it's going to get me clicks. I love penguins, right, or something. I mean, who knows why you click? But every time you do, even if you bounce out of that site and you retreat, there's been another motion, I love this penguin, I click, oh, it's Lacoste, oh, how cute, how holiday, oh, I'm going to go now, I don't want to buy. Then I go to think about maybe go buy some shirts, and all of a sudden their name's in my head, and I don't even remember that I clicked on the penguin. This is advanced, subliminal targeting. This is really exciting stuff for us. As the products continue to evolve, this is going to be a really fun place to play. I actually think, kind of the stuff Starbucks is doing here, where they're kind of like dropping kind of names on the cups. I think when you can kind of say any campaign around yours and paralleling it with retargeting is going to be really effective. You can kind of just pick a color or a word that really resonates with your brand and use it. So just ask yourself, lock yourself in a room, cancel all your meetings, and say, what is sexy about what my site is doing, and build an entire retargeting channel around just that one sexy thing. That's going to be your most effective avenue for sure. All right, that was a lot of stuff. So where do you start? I always tell people are like, I'm not ready, we don't have the money, because people probably, I'm sure there'll be questions, but a buy-in, a good test might be $10K at this point. I'm not ready, we're not there, how do I get started? Get your cookies up. Get your pixels up and start building that audience and start cooking people, because you can't go back. Your audience is only as big as the number of people that visit your site daily and they collect. So start building an audience. You don't have to start serving ads. You don't have to spend a cent. One note, though, on the other side of that is if you go with someone just to try to test and you start building an audience with that particular company and you decide to leave them because maybe they're not as advanced as you'd like them to be, or you find a different one, an alternate that's better, you lose your audience with them. So this is, you leave your audience there. It's not to take your audience with you. It's not to bring your own audience. So just keep that in mind. You can always gain traffic on your audiences. It's as fast as your traffic comes in. But if you have a low traffic site, that's a concern you have to be aware of. So keep in mind when you're looking at what you're going to do next. So some challenges to note, just because they cause me headaches and it's important to mention them. Tracking can be a hot mess with retargeting. I know Affiliate Summit seems to be a very advanced group when it comes to the technical side of things. I don't come from the technical background, getting better at it, but still a long way to go. So when you're doing tracking and you're setting it up, really go through all the different use cases. The first one's really easy, obviously, building your audience. It's usually, if you want to just get started, it's kind of, I'm going to drop it on this key page. Make sure it's either in the footer or the header. It's really easy. The burn code is where things get a little tricky, and it's usually because you don't burn enough people. Some people just put burn codes on their conversion pages. When you burn someone out of an audience because they've converted, the good news is you're building a second audience around the people you burned, so you can then retarget to them for retention purposes. But you're also, if there's a side door where they can get in, or if you're giving out, for us, let me use an example. Let me talk about it practically. For Pro, SEO Moz Pro, if you sign up, we burn you. That makes sense. But we also give out opt accounts. We also let people in to do test accounts. We do beta signups. All of these people should not be getting my sign up for Pro retargeting ads. And they tell me so because I'm stopping them with them. So you really need to ask yourself, are there side doors that I also need to be burning people? So then we drop the burn code in the actual Pro platform. Well, some people logged in via the old channel, or they came in through OSC, which is a sister site. Well, then I got to burn people from OSC that signed in here. And literally took me 3 weeks. I almost fired myself 5 times. It was really bad. So just kind of think to yourself, what are all the different edge cases when you're setting up your tracking? And the conversion code, we all know, really easy. Got to get that up, or we won't have conversion. So, almost up. But setting expectations and handling haters. I mentioned a little bit before with number 1 about the idea of going after the 90% and the kind of change of thought there. I think you need to set expectations internally with your companies, because even if you burn people internally, they go home and sign in on sites or they're working on the site, they'll see your ads everywhere. And I know that I didn't really tell people when I started retargeting because we have a pretty open, I have a test budget, right? So I'm like, I'm going to dabble and see what I can do. Well, meanwhile, I've got people at the company seeing Rand's face all over the web, and there's, this Rand showed up in one of the girl on the help team's OkCupid queue, and he was like, I'd love to hear what you think. That's in the banner. It was wicked awkward. And then I found out that people were like, what's marketing doing over there? They're buying banners all over the web. Where's this budget coming from? And it's just like, no one knows what retargeting is, right? They don't understand the concept. So I sent out the all-staff email, and everyone was really excited about it from there on. And then it turned into positive, which was like, I saw us here, my mom saw us here, or my boyfriend, he's at a tech company, he saw us here. And it becomes a positive thing. So you really need to evangelize this before you jump right in, because it can backlash. The handling haters, I put up some tweets to be really transparent. I had some serious haters, maybe some of you, sorry if any of you actually tweeted any of these tweets at me. But I was learning, and I didn't quite set up those burn codes effectively. And people were just like, please stop retargeting. Why are you doing this? I hate my web life. So you really need to, figure out how you're going to handle some people. Some people really don't want to be in your retargeting pool. And it would be nice if you could write back to them and say, oh yeah, sure, just buy our service. You're totally going to be out of the retargeting pool. They don't take that so well. So you need to figure out how you're going to answer that. I've kind of approached it and be really honest. We're testing this out. I can manually remove you. You can clear your cookies. Some people do, but a lot of people don't, want to do that either. So you just kind of need to work with certain people and realize that you are going to get some people that really don't want to be part of this with you. So set the expectations, handle people appropriately. And the last one's really around the optimization. And I say this because it's the same with every channel. Always gets forgotten. People set things up. It's doing well. I can pretty much, I feel confident saying that if you have done no retargeting and you go set one up next week, you will see success on some level. The problem with early success in any channel is it makes you think that you can wait to optimize. And the thing about retargeting, unlike other channels, is you will plummet if you do not optimize early. There is a banner fatigue within the first 30 days. You will absolutely climb up into the right and then plummet because people will either have gotten over you, you wouldn't have sequenced them appropriately, maybe there's an ad backlash. You won't see the success you've seen with maybe some other ones you've left on autopilot. So there's a lot of things to optimize. I also threw this up there because we're still working on optimizing some of these. I think we could be swapping out more test campaigns. We know when certain things work and we kind of leave them working. We should probably evolve on those banner ads and see where we can take them. So just think about those things. Vendor management, again, often when you get into a channel and it's going well with a certain vendor, I would say you gotta play the field. You gotta get serious about playing the field. I probably shouldn't say that if my vendor's in the room because I actually love Admiral. But you really need to be looking because right now it's a very competitive field and people are coming up with some really crazy, awesome ways to target, and you just really need to be looking at all of them. So, summary time, in case you were tweeting the entire time I was talking. Yeah, we are consuming information differently. You really need to raise the bar on your marketing efforts, especially on display. We don't spend as much on display. This is the least I've spent on display at any company I've worked for. I'm a startup junkie, so I go from startup to startup. Display usually works well for us because we get some branding, we get to resonate, we can kind of control some things. Retargeting for me has just been better across the board. So we kind of do display for more partnership deals, and we do retargeting for true, paid search efforts. Retargeting really helps us go after those pre-qualified leads, and you can't overestimate the value of that. Get creative, just embrace what's unique. Don't be boring. Don't reuse those display banners. And, it's kind of fun for your designers if you kind of go to them and say, here are 3 words that I kind of want to build something around. They get to play outside the box, and sometimes they're sick of being in the box. So, go to them, take a day or 2 days of their time and just say, if you could take our mascot and have him do anything in the world, or take our colors and put them in any way, what would you do? And they come back with amazingly awesome stuff that normally you repurpose for like a Facebook ad because you feel like it's not something you can use for anything else. You can use it for retargeting. So very exciting. And then customization is key. I think you'll hear that all day, every day at this conference, and we're really seeing that in retargeting. So that's it for me. I have about 15 minutes left, I think, for questions. But before we jump into them, I do want you to know I really do love talking about this stuff, and I love looking at other people's sites. So you can email me there. I will actually respond. It might take me a little while after the conference, but I will get back to you and brainstorm.